Spark and stop, spark and stop. Doesn't look like the lawn's going to get cut today. Hi, I'm Chris and welcome to the Handyman at Home channel. After many years of service, this 12-year-old Bosch mower looks like it might finally have decided to call it a day. All we get is a couple of seconds very rough running, plenty of sparks, and then that's it for a few minutes. Can it be fixed? Before starting, let's make sure it's unplugged. Seriously though, in this video you'll see the mower being run with the safety covers off and live terminals exposed. Electricity is dangerous and will kill you, so don't muck around with it. To gain access to the motor, I first removed the upper black body moulding by unscrewing these two crosshead screws. In my case, the screw recesses were jammed full of dried grass cuttings, so I had to clear them out first with the tip of a small screwdriver. Once undone, the moulding just lifts off, although it could need a bit of jiggling if it's never been removed before. And this is what comes of not clearing out all those cuttings properly at the end of last season. Time to get the leaf blower out. Lifting off the black plastic motor cover, my first thoughts are to check the motor brushes, as after 12 years these may well be worn down to nothing. Using a pair of taper nose pliers, I release one of the two brush retention springs and then gently pull the brush out of its housing, being careful not to tug it too sharply as that might damage the copper connection tail. Looks like there's still plenty of carbon material left on it, so probably not much wrong with this one. Doing the same for the other retention spring, albeit managing to drop it on the floor. Once the brush is out of its housing, it again looks like there's plenty of material left. Even so, I pull each spade connector in turn out of its respective receptacle so we can take a closer look. And although the running surfaces look a little bit scored, there's clearly plenty of life left on each of these brushes. It's at this point that it's worth highlighting that you don't need to remove the retention springs completely, as fitting them back on can be a bit fiddly. Instead, after releasing the longer arm of the spring that holds the brush in place, just let it sit on top of the housing, as shown. This makes it much easier to refit once you've put the brushes back in. After partially refitting the two retention springs and pushing the brush spade connectors back into their receptacles, I thought I'd see if the problem was being caused by the brushes not being held firmly in place against the motor commutator. Probably unlikely, as the springs still felt like they had plenty of tension, but worth a try. So I found a length of square beading and cut two short lengths. I then refitted the brush, placing the small wooden packing block behind it onto which the spring arm would bear, with the aim of increasing the force pushing on the brush. Wash and repeat for the other brush, then refit the plastic bearing cap, reclip the supply lead, and we're ready to give it a go. And absolutely no difference at all, just the same, although I can't say I'm surprised. It was always a bit of a long shot. Just a comment again regarding safety. Of course, here I've got the power reconnected and I'm running the motor with the cover off and live terminals exposed. Electricity is dangerous and will kill you, so don't muck around with it. Having removed the small wooden packing blocks, roughed up the end surface of both brushes and refitted them, I tried it again. Although I didn't film that, take my word for it, no change again. Apart from cleaning the commutator, which didn't look at all necessary, I couldn't think of anything else to try at this point, so back together it went. Reassembly is pretty much just a reverse of taking it apart. Just ensure that you've fully seated the body moulding before trying to screw it down. After trawling through a couple of online forums, it turns out that the most likely cause of the problem could be the insulation on the motor windings having burned out. Typical signs of this include heavy sparking, a burning smell or even smoke, the motor not reaching full operating speed and the tone of the motor changing. As the mower was exhibiting most, if not all of these, it looked like the end of the road, or at least the end of the lawn. Why did it only run for a few seconds before stopping? Well, the thermal cutout was probably detecting the temperature rise from the overheated windings and cutting off the supply current. Once everything had cooled down and the cutout reset, it would run again, but only for a few seconds, before it would trip again. I did wonder if there was a problem with the cutout and whether it was worth getting a replacement. But in the end, I thought the burnt out windings were the most likely cause. Just for a bit of fun, I don't get out much, I decided to measure the resistance of the motor windings to see if there was an obvious short. With my DVM probes directly across the commutator, I was getting a reading of around 0.7 ohms. Now I don't know what a healthy motor winding should read, but that seems very low to me. I would have expected a couple of ohms at least. So all in all, I think burnt out windings are the most likely. But if anyone has any other thoughts, please do let me know. As replacing the motor or getting it rewound doesn't make sense economically. It's just a case of putting everything back together, starting with refitting the thermal cutout. So, disappointingly, a fail. But after 12 years service, I don't suppose I can complain. So, just a couple of final comments for anyone still watching. Just as I was finishing up editing the video, I looked into how to measure the motor winding resistance in a bit more detail. And of course, what I should have done was manually rotate the motor shaft so that I could measure the resistance across each opposing segment pair on the commutator, rather than just the one position that I did. That might have indicated that 0.5 ohms was in fact a normal healthy winding resistance and highlighted a particular segment pair where the resistance was noticeably lower, i.e. where the short was. But it was too late by then. I'd initially listed the mower on eBay for spares or repair, but I didn't get any takers. Instead, I stripped it down and started to sell off all the reusable parts. At the time of uploading, I've already netted around 40 quid, with plenty of parts still to sell. For an hour's work taking it apart, perhaps it wasn't such a fail after all. Well, anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you found it of some interest. Please do like, comment and subscribe if you haven't already done so. Cheers, and hope to see you again next time.